Let's talk about the Carolina Hurricanes, who made headlines today, signing unrestricted free agent defenseman Jake Gardiner. And in the background of this video, I just have some Martin Necas highlights, the top prospect for the Carolina Hurricanes, just because I figured you guys would want to look at that, rather than just look at stats throughout the whole video. So getting into this, the contract that Gardiner signed is a 4-year deal that gives him an annual average earning of $4.05 million a year. And honestly, if you ask me, that is a complete bargain for Jake Gardiner and what he can bring to the table. Whether you like him or whether you hate him, I know he's kind of a polarizing player, and there's a lot of people that love him, and there's a lot of people that aren't his biggest fan, but you can't deny that he is a very solid defenseman, and if he can get back to that 50-point defenseman that he was during the 2017-18 season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, then this $4 million contract over the next 4 years is a massive steal for the Carolina Hurricanes, and this is just adding to their already fantastic blue line. So now Carolina has basically spent up all their cap space, and this is the team that they're going to be rolling with heading into next season, and I really like the offseason that they had, and I think Jake Gardiner just capped it all off and made it that much better, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that he went to Carolina. It was a team that definitely weren't really in the rumor mill when it came to Jake Gardiner. You always heard Montreal, Toronto was definitely still in the conversation, and it's just super interesting that it took this long for Jake Gardiner to get signed. So obviously it wasn't the money, and he wasn't asking for too much, because he only made $4.05 million per year in this contract. So I don't really think the money is what made this take so long. I honestly think he was just waiting on to see what Toronto would do. Maybe if Mitch Marner left or they traded him or something along those lines, then they would have had the money to bring Jake back. And I think he was honestly just waiting to see what would happen there. And with time kind of running out, he had to make a decision. And I really like this move for Jake Gardiner. He's going to be in a position where there is really going to be no pressure on him whatsoever. In Toronto, especially in the playoffs, it always seemed like there was that added pressure on Jake Gardiner. But arguably now, he's like the 4th best defender on this team. I would probably put Justin Falk ahead of him, and that's maybe. Dougie Hamilton, I think I would put ahead of him, and definitely Jacob Slavin, and honestly maybe even Brett Pesce. Like, they have 5 very good defensemen that would be a top 4 on basically any team in the league, and now you're going to have one of those 5 on the bottom pairing. I think it'll probably end up being Brett Pesce, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if now we hear guys like Justin Falk and Dougie Hamilton and hear their names back in the trade rumors, because this team could definitely spare a defenseman, and maybe they'd trade one of those guys away to try to bring in a goaltender or someone to, bolster the top 6 or something along those lines. But honestly, I think they would be fine if they didn't, because now you have a decor of Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, Justin Falk, Brett Pesce, Jake Gardiner, and then maybe Trevor Van Riemsdyk, but maybe Hayden Fleury is finally ready to make that jump and become a full-time NHLer, and maybe realize somewhat of the potential that he had when drafted. And if that happens, they definitely could be the best decor in the entire NHL, and honestly, they're going to be a super exciting team to watch. And they also made some super impressive additions on the forward side of things. You got Ryan Dzingel, who came in on a pretty reasonable contract in my opinion. They also traded for Eric Haula, and they also acquired Nino Niederreiter at the trade deadline of this past season. And that trade is definitely looking like it was amazing for them, because Nino Niederreiter in 36 games with the Canes this past season had 14 goals and 16 assists for 30 points. And that is a very good point per game number, especially for a guy like Nino Niederreiter. And if he can pick up where he left off and play a really significant role in that top 6, and then you have Andrei Svechnikov, 1 year older, potentially a guy like Martin Necas, who you see his highlights on the screen coming into the lineup. There is a lot of things to look forward to in this Carolina Hurricanes team next year, and like I said, I'm just super excited to watch them play and see how everything unfolds on the ice. And like I said earlier as well, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they're not done here and maybe they explore the option of moving one of their other defensemen, but then again, they definitely could just keep all these guys and just want to have a stacked decor, which would definitely be a very good option, because the one question mark on this team, in my opinion at least, is goaltending. Can Peter Mrazek and James Reimer be a goaltending tandem that can lead you into the playoffs, and not only that, do some damage when they get there? And Peter Mrazek definitely showed that he probably can this past season, but I'm honestly still not too confident in that. And then James Reimer as well, I'm not too sure about that goaltending tandem. But again, maybe they could explore trading away one of those defensemen to bring in a goaltender to really help them. But even if they don't end up doing that, having such a stacked decor, that definitely will make your goaltending tandem better, because there won't be so much pressure on the goaltending, because obviously you have really good defense. So that is definitely a plus for the Hurricanes heading into next year. And now I wanted to take a look at what the lines could potentially look like up front and on the back end for Carolina heading into next season. I'm using dailyfaceoff.com for this. It's a website that I use a lot. It just shows you projected lineups for every NHL team heading into next season, and a lot of them definitely make sense. So what they have here is a first line of Nino Niederreiter on the left wing, centered by Sebastian Aho, and then Teuvo Teravainen on the right wing. Teravainen is a guy I didn't even talk about yet in the video, and he just had a fantastic year. Same with Sebastian Aho. Definitely two guys up front that you can rely a lot on to give you a lot of your offense. And then on the second line, they have Ryan Dzingel on the left, Jordan Staal as a centerman, and Andrei Svechnikov as the right winger. And if Andrei Svechnikov could maybe even make a leap to like a 30 goal scorer and like a 50-point guy, that would just make this offense that much better. But again, I really like that top six, and it definitely could do a lot of damage. And then on the third line, I'm a big fan of this third line as well. Warren Foegele, who had a really good start to last season, kind of cooled off. I think the next step for him is just finding a little bit of consistency in his game. And then they have Erik Haula centering that line, and then they have Martin Necas on the right wing. Necas usually a center, but I honestly think it's probably a smart move playing him on the wing because you don't want him in a fourth line center position, especially as a rookie with as much talent that he has. And then on the fourth line, they have Brock McGinn on the left, Lucas Wallmark at center, and Jordan Martinook on the right wing. Definitely a solid fourth line. And then moving back to the defense pairings, they have Jacob Slavin with Dougie Hamilton. Jacob Slavin, I've said this a lot of times on the channel, in my opinion, he's one of the most underrated defensemen in the entire NHL, and Dougie Hamilton is definitely solid as well. And then the second pairing, they have Brett Pesce with Justin Falk, and third pairing, they have Trevor Van Riemsdyk with Hayden Fleury, because this obviously didn't get updated, because the Jake Gardiner signing literally just happened about an hour and a half ago, and honestly, he'll probably replace Hayden Fleury because he does play on the left side, so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Jake Gardiner starts the season on a pairing with Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and then maybe they just go from there. And then obviously in goal, they have Peter Mrazek and James Reimer, and that for me, like I said earlier in the video, is the only question mark, but again, I could be proved wrong because that's what I said heading into the playoffs of this past season, and that's what I said in basically all my playoff previews for the Carolina Hurricanes. I was doubting their goaltending, and obviously they had a really good playoff run, making it to the conference finals, and their goaltending was definitely just fine. So now that this video has basically turned into a season preview for the Carolina Hurricanes, I want to go ahead and get into some player stats predictions. Leading the way, I have Sebastian Aho with 85 points, and remember, I say this before I do these anytime. This is if the player plays in all 82. I know they won't. I know they're going to have some injuries here and there, but this is kind of just hypothetical if they do play all 82. So I have Aho leading the way with 85 points. Then I have second Teuvo Teravainen with 75. I think as long as he's playing with Sebastian Aho, they're both going to put up a lot of points. And then I have Nino Niederreiter, 33 goals and 30 assists for 63 points, especially if he is playing with Aho and Teravainen. If they get some chemistry going, I wouldn't even be surprised if Niederreiter is up there around 70 points. And then I have Svechnikov, 29 goals, 29 assists, 58 points, an improvement from his rookie season, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he makes an even bigger jump than I'm predicting here and becomes like a 30 goal scorer and maybe a guy who can crack 60 points, because he definitely has the potential to be that type of player. And then lastly, I have Ryan Dzingel with 48 points, and that is my predictions for their top 5 scorers heading into next season. I know these are probably going to be wrong. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if a defenseman slides in there. I think Dougie Hamilton is capable of being a 50-point defenseman. Obviously, Jake Gardiner, we've seen him be a 50-point defenseman. Jacob Slavin, while he is their best D-man, he definitely isn't a guy who's going to put up a lot of points. So, honestly, wouldn't be surprised if these are the 5 players that are doing a lot of the damage on the offensive end for the Carolina Hurricanes next season. So now to finish off the video, I'm just going to give my overall predictions and expectations for this Carolina team heading into next season. I'm not going to let you guys know exactly where I think they are going to finish in the Metro, because I'm saving that for a later video where I'm going to attempt to predict the standings for next NHL season. But I will say that especially after this move, I think Carolina will be a playoff team. They were a team that I was kind of hesitant about when making my predictions and, trying to decide where I think teams would finish. And I'm really glad I didn't do that yet, and I didn't do their season preview before they signed Jake Gardiner. I told myself I'm going to wait to continue to do these until Jake Gardiner signs. I'm going to wait to make my predictions until Jake Gardiner signs. And even though, yeah, obviously it doesn't move the needle that much, it doesn't turn them into a bona fide contender or anything, it definitely makes Carolina a better team, and it definitely improves a blue line that was already very good. So So it's definitely an intriguing move, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. So that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy, and make sure to let me know down in the comment section your thoughts on the Jake Gardiner signing and your thoughts on just Carolina overall heading into next season, and some predictions or expectations that you have for them, especially if you are a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes. Make sure to let me know your thoughts, and if you guys have not already, make sure to click the links down below in the description. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. You can also subscribe to my gaming channel. I'm going to be using that a lot more now that NHL 20 has came out. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel lately. And make sure to drop a like on this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.